Yay! It says I'm live, but then it's being really slow. I hope that that everyone can hear me and see okay. I've been having some little glitchy things with my computer this morning, so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that everything is good. Good morning and welcome to day number 5 of the Imperfection Collection. Yay! It goes by so quickly. I mean, I can't believe we're on day 5 already, and my kids have already been at college for a whole week, and I'm still standing. And I've only cried a very little amount. Well, sort of a little amount. Anyway, good morning again. Let me catch my breath. I've been running around all morning since about 6:30 a.m. So let me just take a moment to breathe in the the excitement of the last day for the Imperfection Collection, and where I get to show you the entire thing. I hope that you've had a chance to see all of the images together. They are live now on the website, and for any of you who have been following along, they are also available at thequeensinc.com. So, if you want to order over at thequeensinc.com, we love it because it's good for all. So, anyway, all right. We're also releasing the pre-order of my newest online offering called the Imperfect Journal, and that is going to be a 8-episode class, online only. And today for pre-order, well, not just today, but until September 1st, it's at a discounted rate. So if you want to check that out, I would love it if you would join us. Again, this whole collection and the journal class is sort of loosely based on this book, Love for Imperfect Things by Heyman Sunam. I do want to talk about this just for a second because I want to let you know that you do not have to have this book or read the book, in order to do the journaling class with me. The journaling class is going to have some prompts that are inspired by this book. I will talk a little bit about the book and sort of what it has meant to me, and just why it inspired all of this. But it is not necessary, because maybe you feel that this book would not be for you. Maybe it doesn't pertain to you. I will be honest, every part of it doesn't pertain to me, but I did glean a lot of inspiration, and especially when it comes to, wanting perfection in my art. And so I do hope that if you pick this book up, that you love it as much as I do. But again, you do not have to have it. It's not imperative for the class. All right. So let's see. This brings us to the collection number 5, which is called Brilliant Brushstrokes. And one of my favorites, just I don't know why, I'm really into these little arcs. And of course, I love this. This is called Imperfect Scribble. And I actually, this will be a little part of the journaling class where we will write using paint and brushes, and really just create imagery, even though this actually does say something, and it says something very meaningful to me, but you would never necessarily know it, right? So let's see. I'm going to pull out a couple things. Little quick, I've been working a lot with watercolor, although today we're going to use some inks. We're going to use some of the Moonlight Duo inks, and I'll also be pulling out some high flow acrylics. We are going to work just a little bit with only set number 5, which again is called Brilliant Brushstrokes. It has sort of our moniker of Embrace Your Imperfections. It has the imperfect dotted line, imperfect arc small and large, the imperfect scribble, the words spark joy, imperfect X's and O's, which I really like this stamp a lot. I have sort of an affinity for these small mark making stamps, but anyway. And then imperfect brushstroke, which surprisingly is very useful. Although it looks a little bit like a slug when it's just left by itself, but believe it or not, I think you'll find that this little stamp comes in quite handy. And then imperfect little lines. Okay, so those are the ones we're going to be working with at first, just real quick. And then I think I want to try to maybe make something or pull something together, maybe even do a small version of what we did the other day, only pulling in more of the stamps. I don't really know yet. Many times I just work intuitively and spontaneously when doing these things. As you will recall, this has sort of been the not only the moniker, but sort of the little logo image, I guess you could say, for this collection. And I will create this piece for you in just a moment. Here we have just a little fun background. Again, this is just using the imperfect scribble over and over with watercolor. So again, super fun background. And again, also I will mention, I don't know if I've said this or not, but all of these stamps will be fabulous with the jelly plate or the red rubber palette, which again will be in the lessons from the Imperfect Journal. So let's see here. And some of these were just little quickies. I know I've shown some of them to you, throughout the week. But here we do have the Spark Joy stamp, again, just used with watercolor, stamping over and over to create sort of a border or background. This is the Imperfect Cluster, and then here it is repeated. So I wanted to just sort of show you how I put some of the different stamps together, I guess. And then this one, I think I actually finished for you during one of the lives, but then I added the little Spark Joy words there. And I really like this piece, actually. I could see this in just a little ready-made frame. Maybe you could pick one up at the M Word. And when I say M Word, I don't mean the moon. The Michaels or somewhere like that, maybe Target, I don't know, wherever you buy your frames. Of course, I would encourage you to go to a local frame shop and have something custom framed. That's always nice. But if you don't want to break the bank, then maybe you just want to pick up a little ready-made frame and pop it right in there. I think it'd be really cute, make a great gift. Here is some Imperfect Aloe. I did this yesterday, I think, after the live, just using the long leaf stamp, and I had a lot of fun painting this. So just one stamp and some watercolor. Wanted to pull this one back out also, just pulling out a few that I liked or enjoyed, and this was just using the Imperfect Bird, which now that I think about it is sort of a funny name, but it's okay. Anyway, I really enjoyed creating this, and I like the look of it, and thought I'd pull it back out to share with you just as we're going through some of these. Now, this obviously is not complete, but you can see a little bit of one of the things that I did using the arc stamp. And I'm a big rainbow lover, so this is pretty fun. And then here, I think I pulled this out on day one, although it is using more than one collection, because I do have the Imperfect Cluster in here, and then the Imperfect Marigold. And then if you can see this vase was created using the large arc stamp, and then this texture was put in using the Imperfect Scribble. All right. I guess that's all that I have pulled out from all the little sample art that I've created. I wanted to let you know the paper that I actually have on my table right now. I know you probably can't tell the difference on screen, maybe just a little bit, because you can see a little bit of that texture. This is our 140-pound watercolor paper, and this is some heavy Bristol vellum, okay? Because when I do any watercolor or high flow, I'll use my watercolor paper. If I'm just going to use inks or markers or pencils, I'll probably use my Bristol, okay? I'm going to stop just for a second. I feel like I've just been talking nonstop. I want to just read the comments for a minute and see if I can answer anybody. Okay, Patty, I won't tell a soul, I promise. Kathy, good to see you. Puffer, Glad to see you too. I hope you're feeling okay. Patty from the Queen's Ink. Everybody check out Patty Euler's website, queensink.com. And so Jan says she got the Kindle version of the book. That is great. However, you enjoyed, I know a couple people even said that it was, I think, on audiobooks. I don't know. But obviously, I like to have the hard copy because I like to put Post-it notes and even make marks in mine. But you should definitely have whatever version of this book that you like or want. I hope that, again, that you enjoy it and that you find some things that speak to you. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't even really know where to start right now. I'm going to start, I guess, with the arcs a little bit. And one of the things that I really like about them. So here's the small arc. And I don't think that you can really see, but I do have my Moonlight Duos all lined up in rainbow order here. So I have my magenta. I'm not using red. I'm using magenta. I have the orange, the yellow, the galactic green, and the bright sky blue. Because we're going to make a rainbow first, okay? So, and then we'll get into some more mixed media using the high flow acrylics as soon as I sort of just demo a few of the stamps from the Brilliant Brushstrokes collection, okay? And then we're going to put them all together. So like I said yesterday, we might go just a little bit longer than we have just because I'm, chatting a lot, and I'm going to show you a bunch of different stamps, how they all work together. But like I said, I wanted to sort of keep this just to this collection at first, okay? So I'm working on a piece of Bristol, and I'm starting, I guess I could start with I could start from the inside, but either way. Now you can wipe this off in between, but I just blot it a little bit because I don't mind if it picks up some of the other color. The kind of cool thing is that when you have it on cling like this, as you move in a little bit, you can actually move your stamp just a little bit, okay? So each time, and I love this, and I haven't really shown this that much. This is a great thing to do if you also have a word or a saying. Let me actually pull one out real quick. Well, I'm sorry, I'm looking for some little unmounted words. And of course, I don't have any on my table. I only have about 4 million stamps laying around, but none of them seem to be unmounted words. So you'll have to just bear with me for a second, and I'll pull that out later. I get easily distracted and see shiny things. So, all right. So like I said, you have the flexibility with an unmounted stamp like this, a cling stamp, to sort of manipulate it just a little bit so I can push my ends together to make that arc just a little bit smaller, okay? And finally, I'm going to ink this up. Finally, we're going to go into the blue. And I'm actually going to take it right off that mount, and I can use it just like this. Ta-da! Isn't it great? That tickles me. But again, I'm pretty easily pleased. So perfect for rainbow making. Also, I did check this out a little bit. And of course, it's not going to make a perfect circle, but you can, let's see, I'm going to get a different little piece of paper here. You can make a circle, but you can also make, which I think is really great for journaling, is large parentheses. So that's kind of a fun thing. Obviously, I'm just going to turn this over and use the back. The other great thing for, because they are large stamps. So if you have a large journal page, like, an 8x10 or, well, even really a 6x9, these are great for creating just scallops or, some kind of clouds or things that hang down from the top of your page. Okay, so that was sort of my whole reasoning for wanting to create these large arcs, is that you just have pieces that you can, really do a lot of fun things with. So hopefully this will give you an idea of what the heck you're supposed to do with big giant parentheses. All right, so obviously these are two different sizes and shapes because, again, they're very organic and they're imperfect, but they both work similarly. And then, of course, if you wanted to, you could also line them right up on a block like this. You need a bigger ink pad, or to take your, let's see, you can always take your stamp pad to the stamp rather than your stamp to the pad. And I don't know exactly what that would be for yet, but you can do it that way. All right. This is called your imperfect dotted line. And I specifically, actually, let me get this bigger piece of vellum. I actually made this one with a little bit of the line overhanging the dots because, of course, let's see, I stamped some out here earlier. I wonder if I can find them. Probably not. Anyway, all right, so I purposefully made the lines overhang the dots so that it would be pretty easy to line up. A little off the edge there, but at least I'm still on the paper. So you could pretty easily make a little box. Okay, so since I went off the edge, this is what I would do. If I were making something for someone, I would just cut that baby right to the edge. And voila, very purposeful. See, there's more than one way to fix a mistake. Anyway, I obviously like this stamp for this purpose, to make a little box. It's, again, great for journaling, but of course I also would like it for just fun lines. And of course you could definitely journal right on those lines if you wanted to, write something or just make some fun, imperfect dotted lines. All right. The only thing that I do not like, honestly, about YouTube Live over Facebook Live is that on Facebook you get hearts and happy faces. On this you don't. So I hope that you're liking it. Let's see. Oh, yes. Jan says you need time to shop while I demo. So feel free to go click over and check out rubbermoon.com or head on over to thequeensink.com. Um, and yeah, shop away. And don't forget Moonies. For any Moonies watching this video, you have that extra Moonie discount for the month. So you can use that whenever you like. And Kathy, I don't know for sure. I just saw your message. Maybe Mr. Moon already answered you. I don't know if Golden's Hill will have them or not. I will talk to Ronnie. If you are wanting to get them from her, I will definitely let her know. All right. So let me. One thing that I want to do is I do want to do this for you. I did something similar during World Watercolor Month, and people really liked it. So let's go ahead and just do this really quick. I'll do it with watercolor, and then we'll switch over and we'll make some fun stuff using some high flow. Okay, because I want to be able to do at least one demo, kind of incorporating whatever my favorite stamps from the collection or just whatever calls to me. But right now, I do want to use this imperfect scribble. Oh no, I'm sorry. This embrace your imperfections. Well, we can do the imperfect scribble too if you want. Okay, I am going to just moisten this watercolor paper. I'm going to just moisten it with a little mist spray. I have this little mister bottle, and I'm going to just moisten my paper with that. I have some teal paint, teal watercolor in this little dish right here. All right, remember again, whenever we load up the stamp with paint, it depends on how wet that we have it, if it's going to blob or if it's going to be a crisper image. And then, of course, that also depends on the wetness of the paper. My paper is not really wet still. It's a little damp, but all right, I'm going to go ahead and mist that again just a little bit. Now you can see it blobbed up here some, but it's okay. You can always blot a little bit if you want to. If you let it dry more organically, then of course your darker areas will stay darker. I am going to go ahead and just take a little bit of the same color and mush around just a bit. For some reason, we had a lot of people, when I did this sort of technique using words during watercolor month, it was like one of the most popular days. People really seemed to like this as a background. So that's why I decided I would show this to you again. And remember, I'm working sort of a little bit gingerly, just because I don't necessarily want to mush out every, um, every little detail. And I don't necessarily want all of my background to be blue. I still want some of those white spaces. Again, just I know it's it's becoming sort of cliche, but I am really striving for imperfection here. And then finally, I will just take that same stamp and use a different color, or maybe do a little color mixing. I have some magenta here in my palette, and maybe I'll mix it with just the slightest bit of ultramarine blue and make it a little more purpley. Just want it to stand out and be a little bit different. And also, since I want this one to be a little bit more crisp of an image, um, I don't want it to be too wet. And then I'm going to want my paper to be a little drier also, which I'm looking at now. It's still a little bit wet. Maybe I will blow dry just a tiny bit. Now I will say, it looks like I still have a little wetness right here, which is actually okay because I don't know if I can purposely make this happen, but I actually do love the way the I and the M sort of bled out. So of course that was a happy accident, but maybe it can happen again, or you might be able to swing making it happen. I don't know. Not bad though. It's really pretty nice. And so if I wanted to sort of work that out, I could just maybe add a little water or do a little blotting, but you run into the risk of messing it up when I had it really pretty nice. So that's okay. Here I made my brush kind of thirsty, and I'm going to blot that because I don't want that little P to turn into an R. Okay. So ta-da, that is how we made our little mascot. All right. So let's see what else we got. All right, let's do this one too. This is again the scribbles. We'll do this one on here. And all I did really for this was just to, let me find that little sample again. So I really just got my stamp pretty wet with color. It's funny because I feel like we really try to achieve these sort of textural, crazy, colorful backgrounds a lot of times using like the gel press plate, or the jelly prints or the gel press plate. And so I feel like you can really achieve kind of a similar look just with this one stamp. Switching out colors. And of course, if you turn the stamp, that may make it a little bit, switch it up a little bit as well. And then of course I just picked some other, not necessarily complementary colors, but colors that I felt that I wanted to incorporate, and then over stamp it again. Does not matter if the stamp is going the same way or not. You're just going to get a really fun mixed media look. And then as you can see, some of the paint splattered there. I kind of like it, so I'm going to leave it like that. And of course, this, I know it's a little hard to see when it's wet and glistening like that, but it will look even better as it dries. The kind of cool thing is that if this is still wet, when you stamp on it, it will bleed together and make some really cool colors and, more organic patterns. So that is that, right? So the consistency of the paint really depends on how juicy that how much like blossoming that you want. Obviously, also if you're stamping onto dry paper, that makes a difference. It depends on how crisp that you want your image. So in this case, I wanted it pretty wet, so my brush was pretty wet. If I want a more crisp actual stamped look, then I will make my paint drier and make sure that or more drier and more opaque, and of course make sure that I'm stamping on dry paper. All right, so yeah, I really enjoy this, and what a quick way to give a nice background treatment. Or of course, always keeping in mind that if I had masked out the center, that could make a beautiful border. So think along those lines as well. All right, so I really want to pull out a few high flow acrylics now. I may still use some of my Moonlight Duo ink pads. I will keep them handy, but mostly I'm going to pull out some high flow acrylics, and we're going to have a little fun experimenting with those. All right, I'm still, and I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I'm still working on my 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. All right, so these are high flow acrylics. Remember that high flow acrylics are exactly what they say. They are flowing, high flowing. They're very more like an acrylic ink. I mean, they're not ink, they're acrylic paint, but they have more of a consistency of an ink. Every golden paint has, and this is with all across the board with all of their acrylic paints, they have 3 black bars going across. Every label will have these black bars somewhere on the label. They're all hand painted. So this will show you the opacity of the color. Okay. Again, high flow acrylics are the only acrylics of goldens that you need to shake. Okay. And I recommend that when you do shake them, you keep your finger always on the opening, okay? Because even if you think they're closed, sometimes they're not. And that's no fun finding that out the hard way. I just have a few colors here. And I see Kathy, we do have a link on Kae Pea's favorites. If you go through there, I think we might have some high flows up there, really only one color. I think the shading gray is up there, but just so you know, if you shop through those links, no matter what, as long as you click on some of those links and you continue to shop, we still get a little bit of credit for that. So thank you for asking. Yeah, so Jan, I'm looking at the comments again and getting a little distracted, but in a good way. Jan says, I may have to carve my own scribbles, so it says something that only I can see. I read a book about the secrets Michelangelo painted into the Sistine ceiling, which is really cool. So that is one of the lessons that we're going to talk about In this imperfect journaling class, we are doing a video, or I am doing a segment on. It's called ghost writing, and I can't remember. I can't remember what I said, but it's on stream of consciousness writing, on ghost writing, and then writing secret messages and things like that. So that's really going to be fun. I'm excited for that portion. So, well, I'm excited for all of it. I won't lie. All right. So here I have 140-pound watercolor paper. I have this little tray. I'm going to squeeze out some of my paints, and I only have 4 colors. I have green, gold, I have teal, so I want y'all to know this little tray. This is a little like thank you, a little tip tray from a restaurant, and I'm using it as a palette, but I eventually, once it's all filled up with paint, I actually have a project. So if you all can get your hands on a little tip tray somewhere, or a little plastic tray, pour your acrylics in it, and then later on a makey, I'll show you what I'm going to do with it. Oh, future projects always. All right, my friends. So I think what I'm going to do, I want to do something similar for now, just for grins and giggles, because I had so much fun creating this with all of you yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, that I want to do something similar using high flow. So we're just going to do a small page, and we're going to really, I have a wide flat shader. I'm just going to quickly put some stripes on my paper. And again, you know, high flows really act similarly to a watercolor, especially when you have your brush loaded up with water and you're using watercolor paper. It can have a very similar look. The difference really being that once it's dry, it is set, and it no longer will be, you won't be able to manipulate it any further like you can with watercolor. I need to mix up the colors though, because I really didn't want to do it the same colors as I did the other day, but shoot. Well, it looks like I'm going to end up with greens and blues again because I just can't stand it. The nice thing though, I feel like this dries a little bit quicker too than watercolor, so well, sorry. Now I just feel bad that I'm using the same color scheme. And I'm watering it down because I don't want my colors to be so strong on this particular layer. I want my colors to be stronger when I overstamp. All right, so you know what, and let me pull out some of my other stamps here. So goodness, because I just have the one basket in front of me. So here are some of the leaves. I wanted to try to use a few maybe that I didn't use as much. And let me just take a second again to ask you all, if there's anything specific that you'd like to see today. If there's something that you would like to see me, even if it's just to stamp it out, please let me know. And I can do that. I wanted to pull out some of the ones, and I know you can't see this at the top of the screen. I was just pulling out some of the ones that I love that I haven't really used yet. And some of them, I admit, are a little grungy. I'm not the best always about cleaning my stamps. And that is a bad example. I'm sorry. All right. I'm also trying to think if there was something else that I talked about that I wanted to share with you or show you. Well, this is almost dry, so let me, you know what? Since this is still a little bit wet and I want to see how fast I can maybe create a little floral design using some of these babies. And a few extra colors of high flow, because we're going to do it with high flow instead of watercolor today, okay? So I'm just, of course, ending up with rainbow. And I have some yellow and orange now. And I think I'm just going to go to town and see what I can do spontaneously. And just kind of a rule of thumb, I know I just said how bad I am about cleaning my stamps, but if you are using acrylic, try to make sure that you're getting that acrylic off of them right away. The watercolor, not so, isn't as detrimental because it will wipe off, 5 days later. Whoop, uh-oh. Oopsie. Well, wasn't so bad of an accident after all, but I hate when that happens. You need to always double check the strength of your cling, I guess. It doesn't help also when your mounts are as grungy as mine. So I might have to have a mount cleaning afternoon. So remember, one thing is that a lot of times when I watercolor these images, I am used to being able to go in and manipulate that when that paint is wet. But I'm using the high flow acrylic, so it is drying pretty quickly on there. So if you're wanting to, match up your lines or paint them in a painterly way, the way that we've been doing the watercolor, then you need to work kind of quickly or just go in with your paint and paint more opaquely after it is set up. Okay. I do want to also sort of just remind you that as you're, stamping with the high flow acrylic, if you have wet paper, so if I had put down a little bit of water on my paper, this, and then I stamp the wet acrylic into it, it will bleed and blossom and flow again, very similarly to how watercolor is. It's just that once it is set up, then it's not going to move anymore. I'm just stamping off just to sort of check, my color and see if I like it. And right now, honestly, I'm just kind of thinking, oh, like what color do I want to paint in the background? I do want to paint the background out, but I don't know what color I want to use yet. So I guess I'll go for this dark color. Remember, don't be afraid to like make your own little marks and again, I'm really just sort of following along the same style or the same way that I usually work with my watercolor. I need a little bit of white. I have some white gesso here, so that's what I'm going to use. But if I had white paint handy, I would probably use that. Gonna mix it up and add a little yellow here. And then definitely I feel like my vase, my vase needs a little something. So I could either take, oh, again, even my scribble stamp maybe and go over that. Maybe this burst stamp a couple times. I'm going to try it. Maybe with a little, I don't know. Let's try the white gesso again. Want to mask off this side just a little bit. And ta-da! So this would go great if I did have like a greeting card. I could just mount that right on there. Of course, you know, if I was here working on this and getting ready to send it off to you, then I would probably work a little bit more here on the vase and put a little more, I don't know, maybe some stamp things to sort of, you know, how I talk about stitching things together, so that it wouldn't maybe look like such just a ball with flowers stuck on top. I would work a little bit more inside of here to sort of rectify that. But all in all, you know, it's sort of just a beautiful abstract design and super fun to create. So, all right, let's set that aside and let's go over here to this baby because I had such a great time doing this, and I think everybody really seemed to like it. And so for those of you who maybe missed seeing yesterday's live, this was similar, of course, to this piece and also to this piece. Now this, I actually really like it, but this got a little too dark. It's very imperfect. So, but I learned really from this one. This was my first attempt. And then I sort of learned a little bit more what to do for my second one. Now this was all done with watercolor, so this might act just a little bit differently, but we're going to get basically the same sort of, you know, results. But I think we're going to use some different stamps from some of the other collections. And also I wanted to tell you, whenever you're working on watercolor paper, and you know, it gets wet with any kind of paint, doesn't have to be watercolor, it will start to buckle. So you can address that by either wetting the back of the paper with a little spray bottle, or you could also take your, you know, your flat large shader brush and some fresh clean water and just, well, that's not exactly fresh and clean, but you get the idea, and paint the back, and it should start to even it out. Since this was already done and dry, now it's going to do the opposite. So I'm going to spray that front just a little bit again, and it will relax it. I wanted to show you one of the journals that I made for our, well, this is just a raw journal, but this is a really heavy paper, and it is kind of messed up. I haven't done anything to it. This is an old piece of paper that I had lying around my studio for ages. And I was like, you know, this will be a great start for one of my imperfect journals. And I get to use up paper that I've had and do something useful for it with it. But it's really heavy and stiff. And so it wouldn't really close. So I actually took and sprayed the whole thing with that mister, with that water, and then just, you know, worked it like this, and it really helped relax it. And it's good and dry now. It's still quite puffy because it's thick paper, but that is just a little hint that I hope can help you with your paper issues that you may have, and especially with warping or buckling like this, okay? So I'm going to do this one first. I love this stamp. This is the Waves. If only I could find my long mount, that would be great. Oh, I'll use this one. This is so giant that sometimes I feel like it is a little cumbersome, but anyway, I'm going to use this stamp, and I'm going to use my seeds, if I can find them. A little dark. I had some of that teal mixed on there. And I don't know that I wanted it quite that dark, but it's okay. This is the little seed stamp. And I just love the way that fills those in. And you don't have to like really try to line it up or anything. It just really tops that off so nicely. And then, of course, you could use any of your other little, like maybe your little tulip stamp or any little flower stamps that you have. They obviously do not have to come from this collection. So I know that many of you have the stamp stack sets and things like that. So those would also be wonderful to mix and match with these. So mostly what I like to do, keep it sort of monochromatic in the sense of if I'm using like green, then I like to overstamp with the green. If I have this teal color, then I like to overstamp with a little bit of the teal. Jan, I think I have a thing that I put Jan's dog to sleep. As long as none of you are falling asleep, I'm okay. Well, see, that was still a little bit wet, so it did have a tendency to smush out a little bit, but it's okay. I like the I know it's crazy, but I really like the imperfection of that. And then, of course, don't forget, we can always go back in after and then start doing some color mixtures and really sort of make your own mark making little bits of business to accentuate what you've already done. And really make it your own. And I do have to say, this is another one of my favorites. I love this Brilliant stamp. Oh, it's, I know there's similar things out there, little, different rays or different atomic stars, but I really like the shape and the way this one came out. So sometimes when you're doing something like this, and obviously I wish I would have got this one a little bit darker, I could try to overstamp it, but remember that masking off may come in kind of handy if you want to edge things. You know, I'm going to go ahead and just try to line this up correctly on here. Got a little smushy on that one. Okay, so that lined up all right, but let's see if I wanted to do something like this on the side over here. Then masking off would come in handy. Ta-da! And last but not least, oh, you know what? Let's use this little X's and O's stamp because I love it too. And I didn't get to use my little or I don't remember what this one's called already. I already forgot the name of that one. That one is called Imperfect Little Lines. And, maybe I do want to do that one instead. I haven't even used this one yet. All right, I'm changing my mind. I'm going to use my X's and O's in there like I wanted to. All right, but then I want to use my other little imperfect little lines. Mask off again. And obviously I would want to wait until everything was dry. I don't think everything is necessarily dry, but just for the sake of demoing, I'm going to go ahead and do it. But just so you know, if I was doing this for myself or making you a card, then I would definitely want to wait until everything was dry. And same with sort of pulling it up. It's not good to pull it up when it's all real wet like that, but it's okay. And then I would go ahead and do the same thing maybe in some of these other areas just to finish it off. But I feel like I'm all thumbs now, all dirty thumbs. The blue strip is my favorite. This one or this one? This one, right? Yeah, I love it. Oop, I got a big blob. Ooh, more juicy imperfection, folks, but that's okay. Once it's all done, it all kind of comes together and will be fabulous. And so then you might want to do a little, a little more mark making in some of these areas, or you could even just go in with your brush and a little bit of color and do your own thing. Again, keeping it seriously imperfect just because, so much of the other mark making is a little wonky, that you don't want to try to line something up all super perfect and make it all, uniform when everything else on the paper is not that way. And of course, then I would just keep playing until my heart is content, until everything sort of has, a similar look that I like. I feel like this still maybe needs just a little bit of oomph. So I'm going to sort of water down that same color. And smush it back there. Maybe I want to take the same leaf, my little tribal leaf stamp, and overstamp it again because I feel like that's a little bit flat. So again, this is just, you want to continue to play and manipulate it as long as you feel like you could keep going. You are free to do that. So, ta-da! And definitely, I would completely 100% use this in my journal. And I don't know, how many of you love to do a lot of writing in your journal, or if it's mostly about art, but either way, I feel like this could be an art piece, or you could easily write within the stripes and things like that. So it really depends on what you're after, what you're making. Again, I think on thin paper, this would make beautiful wrapping paper, or, if you're into, I don't know, doing fabrics, you could do some fabric designs. Possibilities are endless, but it's all absolutely 100% imperfect, right? So I've been doing a lot of daydreaming around here and a lot of playing and experimenting. And so I hope that you will look forward to many more demonstrations and ideas coming straight out of these imperfect stamps. Let me see if you have any questions. So Jan says, you mentioned the tip tray. Does it have to be black? No, it doesn't have to be black. It can be whatever, because eventually it's going to all be colored or, covered with acrylic paint. Okay. So yeah, any small little plastic tray, if you want to get one and do this with me. I don't know when we're going to do it, but this is just an idea for future. Yeah, you could write, like, and especially if you did this just a little bit more pale, like if you did this very, uh, in a really, really light background, with not so much dark overstamping, you could then write like your favorite poem or your favorite quote or your favorite, passage from one of your favorite books or your favorite lyrics. And yeah, and definitely make it frameable or make it a card, either way, right? So I really, really, really am so appreciative that you've been joining me every day here for the past 5 days for the Imperfection Collection. It has been a privilege and an honor to share it with all of you. As you can tell, I'm really excited about it. But then I'm not going to lie to you, rubber stamps still, after all these years, still spark joy. What can I say? Um, I don't think that's ever going to change. There's just something about these little bits of rubber and blocks of wood that give me a cheap thrill every single time. So I hope they do the same thing for you. Again, we're just going to take a look back at all of the past 5 days of our Imperfection Collection. Today was Brilliant Brushstrokes. Yesterday was set number 4, Lines and Vines. Wednesday was set number 3, What Goes Around. Tuesday was set number 2, Wings and Things. And set number 1 is Bold Impressions. It has been really, really fun getting makey with all of you. For those of you who have joined me, I just want to let you know that I am going to go live over on RubberMoon just to show this collection again. So I don't, just because I don't know how many people from the RubberMoon Facebook page actually follow us here on RubberMoon TV yet. So I'm just going to go over there and show all these stamps again. It will be quite redundant. I'm not really going to do any actual demos. But I'm just going to show them and talk about them and show some of the samples. So, of course, you're welcome to join me over there, but it will be quite repetitive. So if I happen to see you, I will say hello. But if not, I won't be offended. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Mwah. I'll see you and talk to you soon. Don't forget, I will be posting some things in our Let's Get Makey group just as reminders, and posting and sharing some of the samples and things like that. So hopefully I'll see you, and then I'll see you again at the end of the month for our golden journal. So thanks again, and again. I love you to the moon and back. I'll see you and talk to you soon. Bye. Have a great day. Go get makey.